Welcome to another episode of the Unbound Book Babes, and where we welcome. Sorry,
easy for you to say.
Welcome to another episode of the Unbound Book Babes, where we welcome all unbound, unhinged, and unbothered book babes. And today we are talking about Japanese folklore and some of the books that it inspired. For this particular episode, I read a couple years ago now, The Shadow of the Fox Trilogy by Julie Kagawa. And this is one of those series, it's a completed trilogy, and it is one of those that I wish I could read again for the first time. I think this is...
You'd sell your soul to read... Would this be the series that you'd sell your soul to read the first time over?
Yes. Yes, it would.
Wow.
It's such a beautiful story. So it starts out with the first book, which is called Shadow of the Fox, and the little tagline for the first book is "When Destiny Calls, Legends Rise." Book number 2 is called Soul of the Sword. When shadows fall, demons will rise. And book number 3 is called Night of the Dragon. Call the dragon, change destiny.
Wow, those are very intense. All right, I'm hooked.
Yeah, it's so good. And Julie Kagawa has many series. She also has the Talon series that I've read, and she has Iron Sword. I started Iron Sword, have not finished it. Talon, I think, is 5 books, and it was good. It was about dragons. But her stories are so beautiful with their Japanese inspiration and stuff like that. So to introduce you to the story, again, just like the last episode that we did on Finnish folklore, I do not believe anything I'm going to say in this next part is a spoiler, because it is a synopsis of the synopsis that is published on Goodreads. So
wait, you don't believe anything you're about to say? Oh, you don't believe any of it's spoilers. Got it.
Correct.
I got
Yes.
lost halfway through that sentence.
No, it's okay. I don't know if I completed my thought. So thank you for helping me complete my thought. Keeping me on track here. Because there's quite a bit of information to go through. And again, Japanese folklore is much deeper and much more complex than what I'm going to review here today. But I am going to review the items that have a direct relation back to the story that is told. So when you go into it, because when I went into it, I had no idea about Japanese folklore, very similar to the Finnish and Russian folklore conversation that we've had the past couple weeks. I had no idea. And I learned...
Definitely go check those episodes out. Oh, before we get deeper into it, go check out our other videos. Be sure to subscribe. We are currently on the race to 100 subscribers.
Yes.
So be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, and then come join us back here.
Yeah. So I had no idea. And I learned so much from these stories, and then I wanted to learn more. So I looked up some stuff, and there I will have some resources that I used linked in the description below. So be sure to check them out. To introduce the story of Shadow of the Fox, there is the main character. She was raised by monks in an isolated temple. Her name is Yumeko. She has been trained to hide her yokai nature. She is a half-human, half-kitsune. So yokai are spiritual entities or creatures of power. We'll dive into that a little bit more here soon. And kitsune specifically are the fox yokai. Yumeko, she can cast illusions, and she is very mischievous. When a tragedy strikes the temple, she is forced to flee for her life with the temple's greatest treasured and most guarded item. Basically, the whole point of this temple is to guard and protect this ancient scroll. And it's one half of the scroll. The scroll is linked back to the dragon's wish, and many want to own it as their own. They want to control this power, this knowledge about the dragon. Then we have Kage Tatsumi. He is a mysterious samurai from the Shadow Clan, and he is under
There's
order.
samurais in it? And
There's
already.
Yeah, there's samurais in it. So he is under strict orders to retrieve this scroll and given liberties to do anything that he needs to get it by his master of the Shadow Clan.
Oh, shit.
Fate ends up bringing Kage Tatsumi and Yumeko together, and she promises to lead him to the scroll. And from there, they had this very tenuous alliance formed to move forward to help each other out. He's basically acting as her bodyguard, and she's bringing him to the scroll. That journey ends up unfolding and uncovering secrets about both of their worlds. And as they run away from this army of demon or Uni, and the series goes on to demonstrate that these secrets might just be the key and their fate to protecting the world as they know it, kind of thing. And I was reading a blog, and this person, the way they explained it, because they were doing a review on their blog, and the way they explained it, and this was like the last line of their review of just the first book alone, they explained it that this is a novelized anime, and I couldn't agree more. So if you're into anime and you like to read, if you want like a novelized version of your anime, this is a great trilogy to read. It's so good. So in Japanese folklore, the stories are typically divided into 5 categories. There is the Mukashi Banshee, and Banshee is stories in Japanese. I hope I'm pronouncing all this right. I did a lot of pronunciation review, but as we know,
Girl, I think you're killing it.
I can't. I'm really poor with these particular pronunciations. So, and
I think you're killing it. This is how I'll pronounce it from now on.
yeah. Like in my notes, I spelled phonetically how I heard it in my Midwestern ears to try and pronounce it correctly.
My Midwestern ears.
So again,
wait. So the banshees are what again? Stories.
Benashi is the word like stories. So Mukashi is tales of long ago. So Mukashi Banshee is tales of long ago. And then the next category is Meta Banshee, which is sad stories. Then you have ghost stories, which is Ubake Banshee. Stories of replaying kindness, Ongaishi Banshee. You also have witty stories, which is the stories that I think Kristen would tell. Those are Ponshi Banshee. Funny stories are Werai Banshee. And then stories of greed, Yokubarni. And that one then probably...
In English, we call those memoirs.
If you haven't checked out our news episode from earlier this week, go check it out. That's an inside joke from that episode. When I learned this, I thought this was very interesting that these stories were that folklore stories in Japanese are divided into these 5 categories, because as you read this trilogy, you can feel all of these emotions, and I can see, thinking back on the trilogy, all of these being woven in to the story of Yumeko and Kandi Tatsumi. So I was like, holy shit, like I could pick out little pieces of like each instance that you could categorize into these. It's really an emotion invoking trilogy. So I cried. Like the last book had me fucked up. But I will say, the one spoiler I will give is it had me fucked up, but then it slowly put my heart back together. So,
you love a good
tear you apart and build you back up.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
I mean, that's why you read, though, right? Is for that full spectrum of emotions.
Oh,
To
yeah.
get that invested into the characters, that's just good writing.
Yeah, I'm specifically going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish entities from Japanese folklore that have a direct tie back to the story. I am missing quite a few of the yokai and these for this story. I will say that because there was a couple that I was like, I remember this in my head, but I can't remember what they called it. So I just went back and pulled the ones that I really remembered. Like I said, I've read this a while ago. Really quick side note is that Pokemon actually are based off of a Japanese folklore and yokai. So like,
ooh, now I did not know that. I bet there's smarter people out there that did, but I did not. That's fun. That's crazy.
I did not either, but then I watched this video. I'll link it in the description box below. There's a video of like this guy goes through and points out like 99 different Pokemon that can be tied back to Japanese folklore and the yokai.
Yeah.
It was fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a 30-minute long video, probably, maybe. Like it's kind of long. It's like, but it's good and it is very interesting. The only thing I wish, because I have a nephew who is really into Pokemon, the only thing I wish is that there's some like really funny jokes in there that are more adult. And they're kind of like the subtle Disney ones, but they're not as subtle as the Disney ones. So I wanted to share the video with my nephew, but I won't because of those jokes. So that's the only thing that bummed me out about that video, is that I did not feel comfortable sharing it to my nephew yet, because he's like, God, I can't remember what age he just turned. He's sub 10 years old. So yeah, not for him. And he's way smart, so he would get the jokes, and I'm like, no. So for Japanese folklore, the stories, there's a lot of uniqueness, and there's some really bizarre entities and situations. So for example, there's like these yokai that like steal sandals, and they like go into your sandals or your slippers at your house. Like, because in Japan, of course, they wear slippers in their house. They don't wear shoes inside. So if you like lose one of your slippers, it is thought that this yokai took it, and now your slipper is a yokai, and it's running around being mischievous in your house. So just like really bizarre kind of unique things, and like daily things can have a yokai spirit tied to them. So like your coffee pot could have like a yokai, or your instrument could have a yokai entity or spirit in it. So very unique in that regard, where like everyday things can be absorbed with a spirit. So like I said, I'm going to focus on the ones that are more in line with the story itself of Shadow of the Fox. So the first one is called a Hitudama, which is translates to human soul. So it's a ball of light, or typically fire, that floats around in the middle of the night, and it is the souls of the dead that have separated from their bodies.
And it just floats around?
Yep.
You can just see this thing?
Yep. It just is about...
Nighttime in Japan must be really creepy.
Yep. It gets weirder. So, and I would think that, yeah.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Yep. So then you have, which I've already mentioned, is yokai, but there's categories of yokai. There's different types of yokai. And it's a kind of a generalized term for the ghost and the monsters and the spirits that are from ancient Japanese religion. In Japanese folklore, there is mainly two religions at play. There is Buddhism, and then there is the Shinto religion, which is the ancient religion for the Japanese. And so in that religion is truly based and rooted in the gifts of nature from their gods, basically. And these entities have strange mannerisms and create some pretty puzzling phenomenon. Again, the slippers, right? Like just bizarre and you really just kind of puzzling. So the first of the yokai that we're going to talk about are the kitsune, because our main female character is a kitsune. These are the foxes, and they are known to be tricksters, but also servants to the god Inari. And there's typically two types of kitsune. The first one are the holy foxes, and they serve the Shinto deity Inari, and they protect the humans, provide good luck, and ward off evil spirits. The more common perception in the stories are the wild foxes. These are your pranksters. They're often malevolent and evil. But kitsune have firepower. So they are known for their light power, their fire. And they're typically in like anime and stuff, you'll see them have different colored fire. So like blue or yellow. And the older and more powerful a kitsune is, the more tails they have. And they basically gain a tail every 100 years. There's a very common Japanese folklore story about a nine-tailed fox. And that fox,
it does sound very Pokemon-like.
Yeah, so that fox is the most well-known, most tailed fox, and it's given like a god-level status because of its age and its power and its abilities, because every time you get a tail, you basically get a level up in power. Again, Pokemon. So the most common number of tails in that kitsune have in Japanese folklore are 1, 5, 7, and 9. Next yokai is the uni. So
now, quick question.
Yeah.
Is there any significance to odd numbers as opposed to like 4, 6, and 8?
So when you look at historically, when you look at cultures, odd numbers are typically like the angelic numbers, the numbers that are associated with power. I don't know why, but like even like in Hinduism and Christianity, when you look up like 777 angel number, you have all these different, and they're always odd. And I don't know why that is. I have a theory as to why that is, but I don't know. So it didn't.
You know why basic bitches always travel in odd numbers?
No, but I want to know now.
Because, girl, they literally can't even.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's the best dad joke I've heard in a long time.
I don't know how that relates to mythology, but I couldn't stop thinking about it.
So the next one that we're going to talk about is the uni. And the uni are the demons, the orcs, the ogres. They're often living in caves and in mountains that are known to pester and torture monks. And they typically have horns and are depicted with red skin, but they can have different colored skin. So you'll often see them with blue, black, or yellow skin in these depictions and these illustrations. They live below and torture, like in the hell, to torture human souls. And on mortal lands, they are known to feed on the flesh of humans and really enjoy it. So these are not something you want to run into. No good. Then, not a yokai, but relevant to the story, are samurai. So there's quite a few samurai in the story, and there are like some ninjas too. So, but samurai...
I thought samurai were just people.
They are people. Yes, they are people. That is correct. And historically, they began as imperial guards, but then they rose to the highest class of social power and were known as warrior nobility and were part of the ruling class of Japan for 5 centuries. But they play a very large role in this story.
Okay.
The next yokai that we have is I didn't write this one down phonetically, so I was double checking my pronunciation. Sorry.
Butcher it.
The Komanu? I probably am.
Sounds right to me.
These are the lion dogs that guard Shinto temples. And I'll put a picture of all this stuff on screen if you are watching it. And those Shinto temples are the very traditional red temples with the very beautiful lines at the top. And they have typically a wooden gate that you would go through that's also red and kind of gold, and has like the ends of it kind of point up towards the heavens. So these lion dogs they guard these temples. So they from evil spirits, from entering, and they are always in a pair. There is a male whose mouth is open and he protects the outside of the temple. And then the female has her mouth closed and protects the inside of the temple. So anytime an evil spirit comes into the temple, you will see these yokai wake up and begin to protect and get that evil entity or spirit out in a way.
Wow, those sound cool.
Very cool.
I want one.
Yeah.
I guess you have to have two, right? It's like herd animals, gotta have two.
Yes. There are a couple other yokai that protect temples as well. So if you do a deeper dive, there's like this dragon horse that has his mane and tail, and the furry portions of him are fire, but the rest of his body shaped like a horse but is kind of scaled like a dragon, and his tail is really long like a traditional Japanese dragon would be. Very cool image, but they are could be found at temples for protection as well. Then there's dragons, and in Japanese folklore, many of the dragons are actually mostly water animals. They're wani.
Oh.
Yeah, so wani means sea dragon. And sometimes they're depicted in the air too, but typically they live and reside in water. And
that's different.
Yeah, but I thought that was quite interesting because I didn't realize that the default actually for Japanese dragons is water.
That makes the ocean so much more terrifying. Never go swimming again.
Yeah, I don't like the ocean anyways. And as an added bonus, I wanted to throw in another yokai that is not actually featured in this book, but is in a different Julie Kagawa series, and it's the Iron Sword series. But when I was reading about this one, it reminded me of the entity in Russian folklore that is the frost guy. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
Morosko. So I think the equivalent to Morosko is Yuki Onna, and she is a snow woman, and she is beautiful, and she is ageless, and she has this pale skin with long black hair and just piercing eyes. But she feeds on the souls of travelers in mountain passes in like the Alps in the winter.
What's the name again?
Yokai Onna. Or Yuki Onna.
Awful lot like Yoko Ono.
Yep. So if you have not watched our Russian folklore episode, please go check it out. I learned a lot. It was quite interesting. Very unique. There too. As much as they are the same, they are so unique at the same time. And
a lot of similar themes, but man, so different, so unique.
Yep.
Especially, I think both of us know a fair amount of like European folklores, right?
Yep.
Greek, Celtic. I guess not really Finnish, but the common ones that we see a lot in SJM. But
yeah,
I don't know a lot about other cultures around the world.
Yeah,
that aren't Euro-centered.
I know. It's part of why I love this series. Here that we're doing on the podcast about these other folklores, because as much as they are similar, they are so unique and beautiful and funny too. Like there's some just like really odd stuff that you wouldn't think of. And I wanted to bring up something I didn't know, and it actually relates back to the Deadpool, the movie.
Oh,
so the evil guy in Deadpool, his name is Ajax, and the Deadpool's always giving him crap about, being named after a dish soap. Well, Ajax is actually in ancient Greek mythology is a mythological hero and is the son of King Telamon. and a half brother of some other guy. And he plays an important role in the Trojan War and is portrayed as a towering figure and a warrior of great courage in Homer's Iliad. So I thought it was funny that they kept referencing him as soap, but he really just wanted to be this like I'm assuming he picked it for the mythological character behind it, even though he's not a good guy, he's a bad guy. So kind of funny there. But and I watched part of Deadpool last night with Jacob, so thought I'd throw it in as an extra. Hilarious, great soundtrack. But yeah, so that's what I have for Japanese folklore this week in relation to Shadow of the Fox. Highly recommend series. It's completed. It's beautiful. It is. I would say there's no spice in it. There is like a fade to black scene very later on in the series, almost at the end. Again, I like slow burn angst. So very good, very awesome. Highly recommend. You should go and read it. I listened to it, which I also recommend because of the names, which is how like Yumeko and Kagi Tatsumi, like I actually know how to say their name with confidence because I did listen to it while I was driving.
Not a bad idea, especially with those unique names too. Mm-hmm. What's the rule of how many books you need? A hardcover for your bookshelf, a paperback to loan to friends, an audiobook to know the proper pronunciation.
I think that's accurate. So
another paperback to annotate.
Yes. So again, thank you so much for listening and learning with us this week. We really appreciate you being here. Please leave a comment. Tell us your favorite thing about this episode. Tell us something you learned. If you have some mythology that's unique that's in relation to a book that you read that you learned about, mention in the comments. Maybe will be our next episode in this series because I'd like to continue this on. And we really like doing it for October because October is a very spiritual and month, and you'd have Halloween, you could dress up as some of these things, and it's just good to learn about different cultures. So thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode, so see you then.